Hey guys, it's Miss Adams, and in this video we're going to talk about solving compound inequalities. So for compound inequalities, there's two types. There's or inequalities and there's and inequalities. So for the or, if the when you graph it, the graph is going to go out in opposite directions. Okay, so we have x is less than or equal to -2 or x is greater than 3. So if I go and I graph the one, x is less than or equal to -2, I would put a filled in circle at -2 and I would shade to the left. And then for the other one, I would go to 3 and I'd put an open circle and I would shade to the right. So it's going to go out in opposite directions if it's an or separating the two. If it's an and separating the two, or it might just be together, like your x term might just be in the middle, and then you have two different sides, so two different inequality signs. That's also an and. But for the and, they're going to overlap. Okay, so if x is greater than or equal to -1, I would go to -1, and I would shade to the right. And x is also less than or equal to 1. So I'd go to 1, I'd fill it in circle, and I'd shade to the left. So it's overlapping between those numbers. All right, solve and graph the solution to the inequality. So if x minus 4 is less than -7, or 2x is greater than or equal to 12. So I'm going to solve two different problems here. The first one, x minus 4 is less than -7. I'd add 4 to both sides. That's going to cancel. That gives me x is less than -3. On the other one, I would divide both sides by 2 to get x by itself. I get x is greater than or equal to 6. So now I'm going to graph this. So I'm going to go to -3, and I'm going to put an open circle. And I'm going to be shading to the left, everything less than -3. And then for the other one, I'm going to go to 6 and put a filled in circle because it has the equal to part under the inequality sign. And it's everything greater than or equal. So I'm going to shade to the right. The next one, this is an example of an and inequality. So the x plus 4 is in the middle, and I have two inequality signs with numbers on the sides. So whatever I do to one piece, I have to do to all the pieces. So I want to get rid of that plus 4 by subtracting 4. So I have to subtract 4 in all three areas, in the middle, the left, and the right. So that cancels there. That gives me -2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 5. Alright, so I have x by itself now. So I'm going to go to -2, and I'm going to put a filled in circle. I'm going to go to 5, I'm going to put an open circle, and this is an and, so the x is in between them. So I'm going to shade everything in between those two numbers. Alright, this next one, I have 2x plus 9 is greater than 17, or 5x plus 10 is less than 10. So I know they're going to be going out in opposite directions. I'm going to solve the first one. So I'm going to subtract 9 on both sides. That gives me 2x is greater than 8. I'm going to divide both sides by +2. That gives me x is greater than 4. The next one I'm going to solve. I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides. 5x is less than 0. 10 minus 10 is 0. Divide by 5. So x is less than 0. So I'm going to put an open circle at 4, and I'm going to be shading to the right. I'm going to put an open circle at 0, and I'm going to be shading to the left. Alright, here's another and. So I have -27 is less than 7x minus 13, which is less than 8. So I'm going to draw my two lines. I want to get rid of the 13 first. I'm going to add 13 to all the sides. I get -14 is less than 7x, which is less than 21. And then I'll divide everything by 7. So I get -2 is less than x, which is less than 3. So at -2, I'm going to put an open circle. And at 3, I'm going to put an open circle. And I'm going to be shading in between. Alright, so this one, it says or, so I'm going to be going out to the opposite directions. I'm going to have to distribute on the first equation, or the first inequality. I'm going to distribute the -3. So that gives me -6x minus 3 is less than -15. add 3 to both sides. That gives me negative 6x is less than negative 12. Divide by a negative, so that means I have to flip my inequality. So now it's a greater than sign, so x is greater than a negative 12 divided by a negative 6 gives me a positive 2. And for the next one, I'm going to subtract the 1. So I get negative x is greater than or equal to 4. Really, there's a 1 in front of that x, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. When I divide by a negative, so I have to flip that inequality, so now it's a less than or equal to negative 4. So at 2, I'm going to put an open circle, and I'm going to shade to the right. At negative 4, I'm going to put a filled-in circle, and I'm going to shade to the left. Alright, this one. This is an and inequality. My x piece is in between two inequality signs. So I'm going to draw my lines. I need to distribute that 2. Or you could start with just dividing by 2 if you want to do that. So that gives me 2x minus 12 is less than or equal to 4. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. That gives me 10 is less than 2x, which is less than or equal to 16. Divide everything by 2. I get 5 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 8. So at 5, I'm going to be using an open circle. At 8, I'm going to use a filled circle, and I'm going to be shading in between. All right, thanks, and see you next time.